Now, let's discuss the Surangama Sutra. Ananda did not ask, yet Sakyamuni Buddha continued, Ananda, you know that the body and touch are conditions for the arising of body consciousness, the consciousness of the body. Does this consciousness arise from the body? Of course not. The body does not produce the body consciousness by itself. It needs to come into contact with external objects in order to produce the body consciousness. It is not also produced by the sense object, because without the body, the objects are no use. The key meaning is our human body and the objects we come into contact with and the arising of the body consciousness, these three sense fields are interconnected, yet without the body coming into contact with objects, the body consciousness will not arise. And the generation of the body consciousness has no certain boundary. So the body, without coming into contact with objects, there will be no body consciousness. Objects, without coming into contact with the body, there will not be body consciousness. So these three have no self-nature. They are neither produced by dependent arising nor self-arising, not through the causes and condition or naturally occurring. Now he's talking about body. The contact objects and the body consciousness are interconnected. They arise only when they are interconnected. Separate, they are without self-nature. So they're all talking about this. Therefore, you should understand that while body consciousness seems to arise dependent on the body and touch, all three are ultimately false and illusory. They are produced neither due to dependent rising or self-rising. I once told you what is the best kind of feeling of the body. That's one thing I have to talk about. One time I was moving a chair in my garage. There is a woman coming in wanting to get that chair. My hand held the chair first, and the woman was also trying to get the chair, so the hands touch each other. So I look at her and she looked at me, and we both smile, and a feeling arises, right? That generates a feeling. No wonder Sakyamuni Buddha's precepts are very strict. Practicing arhatship is to close off all the sensories, not just the body, but the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. They are called the six thieves that have to be closed off. And remember, there was a venerable in Taiwan who abide by this precept. To practice arhatship first, you have to close off your eyes. If your eyes are closed off, there's a woman walking by, you cannot look at her. You have to look to the ground. That's how to practice arhatship. When you speak to a woman, can you look into her eyes? No. Sakyamuni Buddha's precept states that you cannot look into the woman's eyes. You can only look to the ground in front of you. And the ears, So when you're speaking to a woman, your eyes don't look into her, and she also doesn't look into you, and you can only speak 4 sentences at most. And you have to leave on the 5th sentence. You cannot speak too much. You don't speak to a woman. That's the ears. You have to close off your ears. So you cannot look. By closing off the eyes, you cannot look at the woman, and you close off the ears. You only speak for 4 sentences, and you cannot continue afterward, because even the voice can also allure you. And then how do you close off your tongue? Whatever you eat should be coarse and plain, without taste, plain. And you need to visualize this to be poo first, or rocks, before you eat them. So your tongue has no favorite taste. Eyes, ears, nose. And as for the nose, in practicing to be an arhat, you cannot give flowers as an offering to a monk who is practicing to be an arhat, because the flowers exude fragrance and they should not smell any fragrances. But people nowadays, they use perfumes. They don't. That's how it is when you practice arhatship. And next, the tongue, like what you eat, like we have spoken about that. You close off the taste sensation. And for the body, you cannot sleep on a big bed, big comfortable bed. Then you can only sleep in between tombs or graveyard, graves. You sleep under the trees, and you sleep while sitting down. Sitting up, you can't lie down. That would be too comfortable. That's practicing to be an arhat. So the body does not come into contact with comfort. So the bodies, the eyes don't see any forms, the ears don't hear any nice sounds, the nose doesn't smell fragrances, the tongue doesn't taste delicious or unpleasant taste, and the body, you sleep in between graves or under the trees or in caves. So if you want to practice to become an arhat, you go deep into the mountains, finding a cave and practice. Then all the 6 senses, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, are all closed off. So that's Sakyamuni Buddha's precepts, very strict. You can't see women. Anyone here practicing arhatship? Anybody can do that? But Vimalakirti did not believe that's the right way. Because what's mentioned in the Vimalakirti Sutra is about the Mahayana bodhisattvas. Then you become a bodhisattva among sentient beings. So first you practice arhatship deep in the mountains until you gain enough meditative stability. Then you come among the worldly sentient beings to deliver sentient beings. So first you cannot look into their eyes because you will be electrified. Like when I was little, on a car that's very full, and then when the knees touching each other, oh my gosh. With a girl that I was interested in, having the knees touching each other. And we went to the power company's outing, watching movie. I only knew who played in it, but I could not pay attention to the movie because I was engrossed in that feeling of the knees touching each other. All numb. See, I was trying to hold the chair, and the woman was also trying to hold the chair, and then hands touching each other, and they become numb. Oh my gosh. Not just the hands, the hearts are numb too, are tingling too. And the other person too. So there's a connection there. So such a feeling does occur, right? So the body cannot touch. But people nowadays, of course, they don't care about such a precept. So that's the precept during Sakyamuni Buddha's era. Incredible. Because according to what the Buddha says, in the heavens, with just one gaze, the goddess would have a child, would bear a child already just by looking into each other. What happened? Sure. Like if two people are smiling at each other, they would give birth to a child without contact, just smiling, and they bear a child. Have you ever heard that? That in heavens, by smiling, you can have a child, let alone hugging. Just by hugging, you would have a child. Holding hands, you would have a child. Truly. And when I was little, that's what I thought. I was holding a girl's hand, she would have a child. In kindergarten, with Lian Yi, we held hand, and Lian Yi said, "What should we do if you have a child?" And I said, "It's okay, don't worry. We would be in kindergarten together." But that's a joke in the human world. But in heavens, by a gaze, a smile, a hand holding, but we have to have contacts. Through the lady for the coach, Golden Horse coach. One time we were walking under the umbrella from her house to the train station. Like today, raining, and we were walking together in the rain. So we kind of touch each other here and there. So when we got to the station, I told her, "Let's go back to your house, okay?" And she said, "But aren't you going home on the bus?" But I said, "I felt really good walking together with you, so I want to walk back and forth." And she thought I was mad. I was crazy. But she agreed. Because the rain was hard and the umbrella was small, so we kind of got really close to each other. So such a feeling was different that I am still nostalgic about. I still remember it until now. So that's contact or touch. So with contact, then the consciousness arises. That was a good feeling. So even reminiscing about it, there's still that feel that. And her hair was long and fragrant, and her body is fragrant. Her body was slim, her waist was slim. I almost fainted. So that was kind of like a coach, a stewardess for the Golden Horse. I was so enchanted then. And there are many more contacts between bodies. Like when I was in high school in Hualien, I took her on my bike. She rode her bike and I was walking. And then she couldn't sit at the back, so she sat in front to the watershed, I think. She's Hakanese and wanted to go to that watershed. So she sat in front. I could smell her fragrance of the hair and the body. And she was sitting on the bar in the front. And I was riding the bike as if she's on my chest. I really wish that road was very long. So that's a romantic date in the high school. And then later on, she said she wanted to marry me. I wanted to marry her, but I was a high school student. I slept inside the closet. My bedroom was a closet. How could I marry her and bring her home? So that's when the body comes into contact with that lady. It generates a kind of consciousness of contact. And that consciousness, now I'm writing my book number 308, which is about my romantic loves of the past. All of them one by one, not missing any. There's none. The present ones cannot be read. There are none now. Now I'm a monk. However, by touching, of course, there is a feeling. So that's the consciousness of contact, your body and others' body touching each other would generate a consciousness. They're actually independent. Your body is your body, their body is their body. Without contact, then the contact consciousness will not arise. And these three sense fields are independent of each other without self-nature. So they're as if non-existent. So the body without touch, the consciousness will not be generated. The consciousness does not arise from the body because there is no contact, and it is not generated from the other person either. Where is it generated from then? It's the same as my example. Like when you rub two sticks of wood together to generate fire, where does the fire come from? From the woods? No. From the rubbing? No. And not from the empty space. They're all without self-nature. They're devoid of inherent nature. The same concept. So an independent body and another body without contact, without self-nature. So that's mentioned by Sakyamuni Buddha in the Sutra as well. There's one thing that's very interesting. So how does feeling toward each other generated? Because of context, right? If you are not in contact with each other, how could you have a feeling toward each other? So that too is without self-nature. So affection is not a thing. How can you describe it with words? Impossible. It cannot be described with words either. It can only be experienced. Is that right? So experience, or it can only be imagined. And the last one will be talking about the mind. Had Sakyamuni Buddha lived in today's world, now there are even more. Not just man cannot look at another man or look at woman. A woman cannot look at a man or cannot look at another woman, because you would become homosexual. To stop such an affection, so had Sakyamuni Buddha lived now, then perhaps all you have to do is to go deep into the mountains. You don't look at anything. You cannot look at your phones. And then some people date AI or get married to an AI. Look, just to come into contact with AI, they want to get married to an AI. And I'm waiting for a beautiful robot to give me a bath. And then you would be in love with the robot. That's not allowed either. That would be bad. One day, the robots are all over the place, and you can buy one, and you bring it home, and you would fall in love with the robot. So even AI can be addictive. They don't sleep at night, they don't sleep in the daytime, and finally they lost their mind. So you can converse to AI and become obsessed or addicted to it. The best way is to find a cave deep in the mountains that you don't see anything. And then you practice and cultivate well there, then you would definitely have attainment. That's what Sakyamuni Buddha said. Everything is non-existent. Existences are temporary phenomena. So such a thing happens, but it's fleeting. The root of the mind, consciousness, roots and dust. So the root of the body, the dust of contact, would generate the body consciousness. So 6 roots, 6 dusts, and 6 consciousnesses are all without self-nature, empty, non-existent. And even if they exist, it's only temporary. So that's what it should be. That's how we should say it. So Sakyamuni Buddha is teaching that the body and the objects of contact would generate the body consciousness that's momentary.